farmer's warning, here it comes. And again, I did a solo shot. It was about a month or so ago. We had some warnings come out of England, so there was some European warnings there. But I still get a lot of naysayers out there. David was saying, "Nah, my store is still full. I don't see what you guys are talking about. I don't need to be as prepared as you guys are saying." What was some farmers warning here that you had from the past week?
Well, it's just different areas across the planet that are experiencing far below what was forecast yield. I talked to a friend of mine, John, over in the UK just yesterday. He's helping me with my website, and he was saying that there's going to be little if no potatoes. That it's been so wet and so soggy that they literally can't get anything in the ground across the UK. So that would be just one section. And then we go down to Brazil, Argentina, and Paraguay, states of emergency because of before they were having drought, and then they had these massive record floods during the harvest season. But then these rivers and everything are overspilling their banks onto the storage facilities, which is ruining the crop that was already harvested. And we go down to Australia, and they're having problems also with their crops in the ground. Take a look at China. They're just getting flooded left, right, and center again in different parts of the nation. Before last year and the year before, it was more in the central Yellow River area, but this time it's much further south. So everything Hong Kong north up to Shanghai, if you make that into a rectangle going west out there, is just super soaked this year. And even in Vietnam, they're having difficulty, too much rain. Wherever you look, there's difficulties growing crops, and it's just this amplified weather system that was forecast to be here. This is it. From this point, getting reliable crops based on the amplifying systems that we're experiencing is going to be more and more difficult. This is why I don't know geopolitically and all these things that we're seeing happen across the world. A war is inevitable to like cover the tracks and tip over the table here to create the distraction for escape. But I do believe a lot of it is predicated on disguising the reason there won't be so many abundant yields coming out. And how do you explain that to the populace as their food price increases to the point where they're spending all of their disposable income on food, rent, and that's it, and there's nothing else left. I mean, at that point, that's a hopeless society, very dull. All happiness is extracted from that. What would you do? Eric, I'll ask you, if you knew the crops were coming, the crop shortages were here, you'd have to make excuses for it so the general populace wouldn't awaken, because they could get angry at the leaders for not, preparing. So how would you control that? And then, what excuses would you give for the cover of the crop losses?
Yeah, no, I get totally what you're saying too. The thing that I'm concerned about too, David, is like what I've noticed is when it rains, it doesn't necessarily have to rain like all day kind of thing, but like even if it pours for a good half hour, the amount that's coming down is like ridiculous. Like real wet rain that comes down. I remember one day last week, I mean, it only rained for like 20 minutes or something, and it just, the streets were flooded. I mean, it was crazy. Who's to say that they're not geoengineering things where they could just kind of pick apart different farms where they send over a little storm for an hour and just kind of flood it out type of thing. So that's what I'm concerned about there too. But I totally get what you're saying, man. I mean, they have to try to keep the people with pitchforks at bay here as long as they can. When do you think? You still think it'll be like the end of this year when we really kind of see it everywhere here in the United States in our grocery stores? I mean, especially with produce. Let's just kind of stay on that side with the agriculture, with produce and stuff like that. Do you think it'll be more visible this fall in stores?
You were describing a river from the sky, and that's going to just become the norm, where if crops are in the fields, they'll get washed out or damaged from just the rainfall itself. And look at the nutrition of the crops. As you say, yeah, some supermarkets are full, but what's contained in those boxes from factories that they're sludge fooding out to make it appear that the store shelves are full? I mean, go and do this, anybody out there, as you're walking along, actually see how many deep the item is on the shelf. Because I've gone into many a store and it's like 1 deep or 2 deep, covering the whole, what would have been a quarter of a section of the aisle. But it's like they took the case out and just spread it out to just give the facade of one box, covering, say, oh, this is full. And as soon as you take one box, then it makes an obvious hole. They're just trying to give you the idea in your mind that thing, and they're reducing the size of the aisles, shortening the length of the aisles. Also the height of what was previously aisles. So if you're taking away a front, quarter section and then removing one full shelf top, and you notice that when they do that, they re-engineer it with a different kind of quote unquote feng shui to make it more open and appealing, and you can definitely see way more of the store. You're walking down and those things are well overhead high at the very top. You kind of have to even reach up and get it. But notice those shelves are being removed now so you can see through the entirety of the store. So how much shelf space is that being reduced out of there? And then think about the nutrition that's included in some of these frankenfoods that are making their way to the shelves, and the amount of new GMO crops that are in play, and where are those fresh fruits and vegetables really coming from? You need to ask yourself. It's not coming from down the street at Farmer John's place over there. It's probably come from California, it's come from Mexico, it's coming from somewhere. Everything's been irradiated, and the foods that we're getting really have very, very little nutrition. So you growing your own or reaching out, buying from the Amish or buying from a farmer's market, knowing somebody who touches the food that has the ability to grow food and deliver it to you. It's not just because there's food there. You got to look at what's included or what's in the food that they're trying to give you. That's more of a thing as well.
Yeah, no, Frankenfood, definitely. I mean, I've seen some viral TikTok videos, a compilation video of some of the latest Frankenfood of like people cutting open a watermelon and it looks like rubber, and they're trying to like break it. Like real watermelon kind of like snap. You seen that?
Oh, I've seen that one too. Yeah, and I saw another one with the fake dyes because they're injecting a lot of watermelons too. Please be careful.
A banana too. Some lady was trying to just snap like a banana, and it was just like rubber. It was like Play-Doh almost. Like she could like twist it and contort it.